Welcome in the Mason studio. I'm Jason, this is Koen.
Hello.
We produce all the Mason stuff together. And we want to show you today a little bit how we work with some tips and tricks. Hopefully it's useful to you. And the thing we're working on this week was a remix for Martin Solveig for his next single called 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to go through it.
Do you usually have a method with all remixes? Do you know, as in, do you have a process when you get a remix? Do you know the first things you approach?
No, it's not a particular process. Sometimes we just feel like it fits with something we already have lying around, maybe some kind of idea that we just come up with. Sometimes there's nothing that really fits in, so we start off completely.
Yeah, but in general we make a lot of sketches, and at a certain point we decide, okay, it's going to be this sketch, this is cool enough for us, and then we do the hard work, which is kind of to build the whole track, do the arrangements, all the mixing and all that. But it's yeah, so we see it really as two separate parts of building a track. First, the whole sketching thing, and I think it's very good also to throw stuff away. So just sometimes we throw 5, 6 almost tracks away before we're kind of happy or something, or we just save it somewhere.
And what did you get for this remix? What stems? Did you get everything?
Yeah, we got some vocals, and we got some more parts. But we basically pitched it down. We pitched down a few keys, just using the Logic Time Machine. So it got a little bit more darker than in our kind of the vibe we were looking for.
So where do you get your drum sounds from?
Yeah,
hits. I mean, are you using a battery or something? Or
yeah, we also got all kinds of things. For instance, here the hi-hat. I just go from top to bottom. The hi-hat here is microtonic, which is something we use a lot. You can basically just. It's a very simple, simple thing. It has an oscillator and a kind of noise generator, but you can draw everything, and you can make really funny funny sounds with it, and it's very, very kind of flexible. And
yeah, it's really flexible. Like for instance, instead of like a kind of envelope with triggers pitch, you can also use a wave. So and then you can get all kind of like weird FM kind of sounds out of that, which is kind of funny. So we actually end up not only using this for drums, but also for like weird sounds, just freaking with FM kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's good for effect
sounds.
sounds.
What you're doing there, do you often alternate that in the track, so you have hi-hats open and like
yeah, definitely
as a climax or whatever?
Yeah. In this track we didn't really, but certainly for live, it's a really great way to build climaxes with like huge white noise kind of thing that goes open, like
yeah,
kind of like just do a big cloud, especially with the side shading and stuff.
We also use a lot of sample delays on drum sounds. I mean, we wouldn't do it on kicks or anything like that, but like on hi-hats, for instance, we have here 3 or 4 hi-hats, and it really gives it a lot of space to put a sample delay on it. For instance,
yeah, that's really logic term. Basically what it does, it's like delaying the left and right channel by a certain amount of samples,
yeah.
So you can get like...
if you make it too big, if you make it, for instance, if you make it too big, you're gonna get really weird phase problems. But if you keep it like below 200 something milliseconds, you can get really nice. You get really nice. Yeah, you get really nice panorama effect, and gives a lot of space to the sounds.
So that's just on the hats, or do you do that on a lot of elements? Yeah,
we do it on effects and on hats, and also on sometimes on pads or something. But just we wouldn't do it very easily on bass or kick. But on the rest, I think on this tracks we probably have like maybe 20 different ones open at the moment.
Yeah, the weird thing is that most people say like things with panorama they shouldn't be used too much with kind of steady sounds like bass. But we still end up with some tracks where we actually had like bass like constantly panning left, right, that kind of LFO kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
how does that work in the club? That stuff. I mean, some clubs
Yeah,
take
he's
that
kind
one.
of concerned about that sometimes.
Yeah,
but
it's my
actually
role
we
in the
heard
whole
it, and it works kind of okay. For me, it was really.
Yeah.
But it really depends on the type of track. But,
Yeah, it depends. We also obviously always check everything. For instance, here on the big knob, you can very easily listen how it sounds mono, or we do all that and check it on different sound systems. So we wouldn't release anything unless it's clear. It sounds good.
So when you were making this remix, do you start laying stuff from the remix in and then work on the drums to get a kind of groove, or?
Yeah, basically we started out here with.
Just a vocal, I think.
Yeah, we did, and that's what we usually do. It depends on the stem we're getting and the kind of with some kind of outtakes, you get this instant idea of, well, this would work very nice. For instance, here we have the.
Yeah, we cut up the vocal in this one a lot to get these kind of things, but also these kind of things.
Actually, lots of the stuff, like the effects, almost like rhythm parts, they're like parts of the voice. Even one of the hi-hats, maybe you can show, like this one, which we actually called like breathe hat. It's like, this is just, we put a delay on it to make it like double the tempo, but it used to be like this, and just the outtake, which was like kind of a breathing sound from the vocal. We decided to just use it as a hi-hat because it's just really fun to recycle all kinds of stuff and use it for a different purpose than it was actually for. So
Yeah, and then we have a second one here coming in as well.
we actually, you will find us like using like pieces of vocal, like someone singing really close to the microphone. You have this like smacking sound from the mouth, and using that as a clap or something. Always.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, also we use for talking about that. For instance, claps. We had a whole pile of claps in this track. First started out with this one, and then we have also this one. But then we also.
I was cleaning the toilet actually.
He was cleaning the toilet,
As
and he had
this-
rubber gloves on, and we basically see what happened when it was behind the microphone, and it sounded like this. It's just like a kind of click thing, with all
So
together.
rubber gloves, put before a microphone, just clap it together, and it made just so much noise, and we're like, we have to record that. And
Yeah.
so this actually ended up in this track.
So
It's
now
kind
doing the
of
whole
funny.
clap together, it's like. So you hear the long clap sound, but also the attack of the really small sample of the.
Yeah, and as you can see, it's all, of course, a bit delayed. I mean, it's really have to experiment with timing, especially with claps. It's very nice to have like one just before the beat, one just after the beat, and one on top, or maybe one more before the beat than the other, and you get this like really
This
interesting.
timing
groove.
thing is so important. We with every channel we kind of tweak until we find it kind of groove in the way we want.
And where do you get like kick drum hits from, and the sort of the more standard? Are you sampling from records, or is it?
Well,
Venus
it's all
House,
kinds of
or-
ways. It's always a bit different, I suppose. It's sometimes we use the samples or drum machines, or
Yeah,
Could
we
be
just
anything.
got a bunch of samples. Also, we got quite a few things which we just sampled from like disco records and that kind of stuff. I like to check out like old disco records, old Italo records, like kicks that are really very well processed, you know, just really some of those kind of 80ish like sounds. Just for instance, I think this is just your
Sounds-
regular
yeah.
sampler library that you would buy like
Kind of
around the
all the-
corner. It's
yeah.
not really something spectacular in this track.
yeah.
But we like to use lots of, also on even on snares and claps, we use lots of like disco kind of records that we just mangle and just totally fuck them up so it comes, or it's just such a small piece that you can't really recognize it anymore. So that's always fun to do. I think that's also, I really like spending a night like checking out all like really obscure tracks that nobody ever heard about, and just see what you can do, buying old records and just
Well, yeah, and also our secret a little bit is that we had like for a very long time a boring job where we had a lot of time to kind of cut up samples, so we kind of built a few gigabytes of all kinds of weird drum sounds and stuff. Although we would never use a drum loop or a complete sample for long, we only use a snare or a hi-hat or something like that. It's we like
you
to
build
we like
all
to,
your own loops from scratch. Basically.
yeah we like to keep the flexibility in our own hands and not be dependent on the full drum loop or anything like that. I mean, other people might do it, but it's not really our kind of way of working. So our drums are always
yeah, but sometimes we do use like kind of little pieces of a little loop, of course. It's always expiring. Sometimes I have some loops lying around. But basically, lots of stuff, old records.
Sorry, this once,
plugins.
for instance, this once probably was a loop, but it's so cupped up and so little left that it's now just sort of an effect sound to keep the groove a little bit alive.
Another thing we did with the microtonic is the sound you just heard pretty loud, which we called like a sucker, which is like actually a note, which is, this would be where the clap starts, and we just timed this note so, as you can see, it's not really tight, because it's like a sound which has like quite a long attack. So we just built this in a microtonic, just adjusting the attack so long that it just fades in at the right moment, and then it like ends at the right moment as well. So you get this nice kind of where the would be the attack. So it's like sucking the clap in.
Altogether, you get something like this.
So we like. So that's like the little things that make it groove a little bit more, but it's really strict. You know, you have to really adjust the start of the note with the attack time and also the volume of the note, because you don't want it to be like and then the clap is like really tiny. So it has to be really subtle.
Yeah, we kind of also we're pretty we do use a lot of automation on every track, so every track has always a few channels of things going on, so it kind of fits the way we want it. Sometimes for just a small part where you want it, you want the balance of the drums to be different than on the parts where it's a little bit more full, and so we always work with that.
Okay, so in this instance, for the bass of this track, we use the reactor patch from a very nice little synth, which is called a Oki computer.
Sounds like Japanese.
Yeah, somehow it does. Yeah, and it's kind of a wavetable synth, so it sounds really digital. It doesn't at all sound analog, but you can get really, almost FM-like bass sounds. So I'll play the bass right here. So you can hear actually the end of like 16 bars, you get this little kind of change in sound, which is actually shifting through different kinds of waveforms. So you could actually take this sound, you could adjust it from a sine wave going into a more complex wave. You could even say, like, the sine wave, I want something different, I just want like a triangle, like a ramp kind of wave. You could like morph between those two, so you can actually see the waveform going from sine to this like more complex waveform to the other one we used.
So the sky's the limit then in kind of editing.
Yeah, and then you could for instance use a sequencer, which we actually did here, or it's like synced LFO to like control the amount of morphing, and you get really this kind of attacky kind of punch that you can like start out with really bright tone and then end with kind of more of a muffled tone. So you could almost use that as a filter. So actually you don't have to use a filter anymore, you get this like really kind of kind of sounds you can make, just like that. Of course you can use a filter, but the filter doesn't really sound that nice. But you could do all really strange things with this. I mean, different kinds of distortion. You could even reduce the bit rate, that kind of stuff. It's got a built-in delay. Really fun piece of gear. This we use it a lot. I can show you some of the presets that are in there. Really like this one. Kind of old Commodore 64 kind of sound, which we like to use as well. So that's the Oki computer. We have to see who made it, but he'll get the credits.
Yeah, what's also pretty a trick we do quite often on basses is that we double it. but without you really noticing too much that it's actually doubled. So for instance here we have, because the sound is kind of, it's not too crazy or not too wild, it kind of stays friendly. But we wanted it to be a little bit more crazy on certain parts of the song. So we doubled the bass up with ARP 2600, it's a synth we use a lot. There he is. But we didn't use, we just wanted a little bit of kind of crunch on the sound, so we deleted all the low of it and just kept a little bit of this kind of stuff.
So it's knurfed op solo.
Yeah. It once was this sound. But we didn't need extra low, we just needed some stuff more in the higher frequency, so right now it's just a clicking thing, but altogether this is first without and then it joins in.
So it gives a really nice extra punch and high end kind of sound. It's really, when you put it off solid, it really cuts through somehow.
Yeah, and it doesn't interfere with each other. It's not like they're in each other's way, because they're completely different frequencies, and it works very well. So that's about the bass, I think, for this track. Well, we're kind of flexible in when we work. Sometimes for some tracks we use a lot of hardware, and on other tracks we just like to work with software. It all depends on what we're looking for. Kind of hardware has sort of certain sound, and sometimes you want that in a track, but sometimes you don't.
Well, in this case, it was also a matter of like just being able to grab a synth really fast and get to the kind of sound you want without having to touch a mouse. So we just let the track roll. This track is actually called Jam because it just it came from like jamming away on the North lead.
So for instance, we record a lot of, for sound effects, we record a lot of kind of crazy stuff like this. Well, you can hear we had fun there, and we just pick it out a bit, and then we just draw it with a little bit of low cut, so it comes in like low cut, and then it has certain sort of effect value. So that's, for instance, something we did here in hardware.
I could show you what it looks like as well.
Yeah.
Just for instance, what I like to do on the North lead is get playing around with the amount of frequency modulation between the two oscillators, and then change the frequency of the modulator, which would sound a bit like this. And even when it gets really low, you get more kind of an LFO thing, as you turn it up more, it becomes more like a steady tone. You actually can make really nice things by starting out with a key or ending on a key. So for instance, now I start out with a really kind of tone which has a kind of pitch that you would say, well, okay, this is like a note, and then turn it all the way back to it becomes kind of more noisy or some kind of effect, and then especially it works well if you play around with the pulse width as well. You can get this kind of noise versus kind of tones, and it works really well to morph.
Yeah, and also Logic is very kind of flexible in integrating hardware in the whole thing. We have in our studio 16 audio in and out, but also 16 MIDI in and out. And Logic has this thing called external, which is just you select, you make a preset of a certain hardware synth, and go straight away. The MIDI goes there, and the audio comes back in with the right volume. So you can, it's just as easy to take a soft synth as a hardware synth. You just select it basically, and you can just click away or play away, and it's and you can record whenever you want or bounce it, and you're done. So it's very flexible. It works very very quickly, and that's what you want. You don't want to have all the hassle of all the plug-in and all that kind of.
Of course, you have to bounce real time, but
yeah. Yeah.
Have you left the vocal sort of dry then, or have you been processing it? Through reverbs or delay, does it come through dry or does it come through process?
Well, we always ask for dry vocals because we don't want somebody else's reverb, sometimes even delay, and we have to stick to their tempo, which kind of.
Yeah, you people.
Yeah.
Give us dry outtakes.
Yeah. But we did wet it up a
Damn
lot.
it.
You can here's, for instance, part with vocal. It's still so.
The thing is, in this track, it sounds like a delay, but it's actually like little pieces of the vocal chopped up and then pitched to all different kinds of. We just started fooling around with, as soon as we had the basic key of this arrangement, we just started to pitch things up and down. So, for instance, I think this is a little bit higher than the original vocal, which used to be like this.
It's always very useful to have
So
like us and as and and all these kind of sounds.
We push like the vowels up a couple of keys. Then here's like a lower one. So this is the normal one actually.
The next one.
And then there's another one which goes. While fooling around, we found this when we pitch it even more down, put a filter on it, you had this really nice kind of effect sound which actually goes on throughout the track.
Yeah, no idea what he's saying anymore, but it doesn't really matter. It's now just a sound which isn't. You still recognize some vocal parts in it, but it's.
And again, the
part of the groove
storm gate is there. And you can hear it can almost become some kind of rhythmic, already really trancey kind of thing. This is obviously got lots of delay and also goes to the sidechain reverb bus we've been talking about. So that's one other use we put.
Yeah,
in
it's now
vocal.
completely part of the groove. I mean, if you just display it.
Like when the track goes back down, you still have this kind of vocal. So that's all just happy coincidences that we like discovered while just messing around with the vocal.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a lot of small production, a lot of small products from one vocal outtake, basically, and just fool around with it. You can do so much with just one outtake. You can make any sound from anything, basically.
So once that in place, then it's basically a matter of feeling which part has to go where. You know, like completely, we like made this part. So we thought it would be nice to go from the really spacey intro with like filtered low pitched loop. Then I really got this idea, but it really I don't know, it's really born here, you know. We just feel like, okay, now maybe nice to go from the to really almost only the E loop. So it's really idea I had, then we worked it out. You can hear it going from this. And very smoothly, like the higher pitch loops coming in. Till a point where there's like almost only the high pitch loop with some percussion. So now it's only the E. And it's just really a matter of feeling, you know. When we get the build up, we have this. Sometimes we get the feeling like, okay, why not make this like 16 bars longer? So we take everything afterward, we just put it more to the end and then insert some more bars.
What's also
So it's not really a standard formula. It's just a way. If we think like this is too long, we just cut out a few bars. If we think this could be longer, or this build up or break could be longer, then we insert a few bars. So that's just the way it goes.
In terms of this remix, the only part you ended up using then was the vocal.
Yeah,
There's no other original.
But
parts.
in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the high, we made hi-hats from the breadth of it. So there are already 8 different channels running from the same outtake, basically. With all
but there was
different
no
outcomes.
instrumentation or synths from the or anything.
Well, we got it, and sometimes we use it, and sometimes we don't. And this time we decided only to go for the vocal. We also pitched the whole track, I think 3 notes down or something. We decided to go, yeah.
Yeah, in some cases you have interesting like drum sounds, but it's also more fun and you're more flexible when you don't have to use like. We started out with also some of the instrumental outtakes, but then in this particular case, like the vocal was the only thing that stayed.
Yeah.
Somehow, so it differs. It's not the golden rule. Sometimes we use even less than this, you know. It could be only like a small phrase or just a little loop.
Yeah.
Which is actually
as long as it's, I think the only rule is that it's kind of respectful to the original, so that you don't. I mean, sometimes you hear remixes which have nothing to do with it. I think it's important to kind of. I mean, you're doing a remix not for the sake of having your track on the record, but to add something to the track. So we always like to kind of still make it somehow recognizable that it's actually connected to the original.
Do you worry with remixes about, not worry, but try and get, how hard is it to keep your sound? I mean, sometimes it must be difficult knowing that it would suit a certain style of remix, but maybe that's not the Mason sound, or do you just make it and that
Well,
is
yeah,
Mason?
I mean, our only rule is that we would never want to have something out there that's not something we're very happy with, or so it always has to kind of Mason sound, let's say, or what we're proud of or happy of. But yeah, you do get like label managers who say, yeah, we want more action, or it should be. They always go into these terms like it should be more hands in the air, or those kind of things. So it's a little bit of game. We go partly their way, and you know, it's a bit give and take.
Are you out of the cycle now where labels are asking you to make a perfect Exceeder remix?
Yeah, we had a few times in that period when Exceeder was a big record. Then they wanted remixes. We, for instance, made this remix was completely different. Had nothing. It was just a very different kind of vibe, and it was still kind of electro-y and all that. And then they said, yeah, it's really great. It's almost there. It just needs to be more Exceeder, kind of, or more, you know. So we obviously didn't do that because it doesn't make sense, and I don't think other people can make kind of off-spins of that. We don't want to do like 10 times the same record, so it's
yeah,
it's
but
not for
still,
us.
I think there's a nice line in a couple of remixes we did. It's always kind of a chordy kind of feel, a little bit like Italo-ish, marauder kind of style to it, and people.
There's
seem
always
to
also
like
a little
that
bit of funk elements in it, and
so basically we do whatever we want. So it's not really a problem.
yeah,
We never get like they're never saying like this is bullshit or we want a different approach. They just
yeah. Also, I'm very happy that people just will have to live with the fact that we kind of make not only one style of music. We have more than enough stuff lying around here, with more than enough stuff we want to make still. So we don't limit ourselves to one thing, and we like really techy stuff to more poppy stuff. And
yeah. So for the album, for instance, there's even going to be a ballad, for instance. Well, I mean, there's not much dance albums out there who do that, but it's all part of what we're about. So it's really a wide range of influences and stuff, and of course a remix is really aimed at the dance floor. So, but it doesn't have to be like 130 BPM always, you know.
Yeah, and it always kind of it can also be annoying that all the tracks are supposed to be, or dance tracks supposed to have like this certain type of build-ups with boring intros, with drum intros, and then after a minute starts the bass and all that. And we kind of also want to kick to that a little bit because it's too boring. Then all dance music is going to sound the same on Beatport, which it partly does already. And I think there's a lot of room to just bend these rules a little bit. I mean, who made the rule that every track should start with 2 minutes intro? Yeah, it's easy to DJ, but I mean, DJs should they have more than enough time to kind of prepare their mixes in the club. So I think we don't want to stick too much to these kind of rules.
One thing which is really funny we did in a track we recently did is like let the kick start at a moment which you wouldn't really expect. So you actually, it seems like the kick and the snare turn around, and then only at the moment that the kick turns in, you actually experience where like the first count of the beat is. So that kind of tricks we like to play around with. So at least somebody who, like a DJ, will hear the track for the first time will think, hey, what happens there? So
yeah.
For us, that's kind of important to let like open people's eyes and that's just make them scratch their ears for 1 minute of their day. So at least something happened, you know. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of room now in dance music for that stuff can happen, because there are a million of different digital releases every week, and it's. I think we shouldn't stick too much to all those rules that so-called made.